So I thought I'd kick off by just, first of all, congratulating you on this award for economics, politics and business environment with your case IKEA in Saudi Arabia. It's a real peer review process, we think, because it's not based on numbers of sales, this award. It's based on the number of different educators and schools at which your case is adopted. So really those educators are judging you by the currency that's most valuable, which is their time and effort and the well-being of their class and their students. So I think it's a real compliment to the strength of the case that you should be coming out on top and receiving the award. And congratulations, it's an excellent case and really, really well worth investigating further. I'd like to start by asking you, what is the case about? Could you tell us a little bit about the background of the case and what first sparked your interest and led to you writing it?
So this is a case that we wrote for the MBA program at the Harvard Business School, in particular for a required course called Leadership and Corporate Accountability. And the course itself deals with the responsibilities of business leaders to beyond investors, to their customers, to employees, and then to society at large, and how to calibrate and contextualize that responsibility across time and across geographies. And this particular case was written for a submodule on responsibilities to society. And what made this case really interesting to us was the fact that IKEA has a very strong brand position and image as a company that's on the leading edge of progressive values, almost an ambassador for Sweden in the world and for Swedish and Scandinavian values in the world. And yet somehow it was caught perhaps behind the curve on this in the context of Saudi Arabia. So long story short, they got into Saudi Arabia in the early 1980s at a time when the political environment was very different. And because of restrictions on the depiction of women in print catalogs, and because their models in their catalogs were largely Scandinavians dressed in attire that Scandinavians would dress in, they thought perhaps the wise solution there would be to airbrush all women out of the catalog. And maybe that was a wise idea at some point in time, but it certainly wasn't wise in 2012 as they were caught out. And so the issue in the case is really, how do you track the progress or the development of values in society as a company? And therefore, how do you stay ahead of them? Particularly if in the context of a company like IKEA, your brand is about a certain kind of liberal values in society.
Yeah, this all sounds very familiar, especially working in the Middle East between Dubai, Saudi Arabia, GCC, where these kinds of conversations come up on a regular basis when Western companies would enter the region and would face the question of where to draw the line between what's a culturally sensitive approach versus what is not okay. And I think this case hits right, the right nerve when it comes to that particular question, particularly because different perspective, if you take different perspectives, that yields different outcomes on whether that decision was wise, as Professor Karthik mentioned, or not. And the context back then in 2012, where Saudi Arabia was as well in a very different place than where it is today, also yields very interesting conversations, as you might have noticed, Professor, in the many different classes where you've taught this case.